got the world in the palm of my hand. I've got no master plan. I've got the world in the palm of my hand. Oh, no, let's say I understand. I know I've got the world in the palm of my hand. For someone, playing Stevie Wonder, you can call me, be the partner, and we'll follow. Well, it's my game, I'll play it on my own. I'm lying, I can't help it. I've got the world in the palm of my hand. I've got no mastermind. I've got the world in the palm of my hand. Let's say I understand. I've got the world in the palm of my hand.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that little intro. I felt like we should get this space set up. We're gonna wait a few more minutes to see if anybody hops on with us live. But if you're watching the replay right now, then I want you to do something before we get started, and that is, first of all, share that you're watching this. I would love if you shared and tag me. But also, I want you to go ahead and have your birth chart ready. For this, it doesn't really matter if you're working with sidereal or if you're working with traditional Western astrology. For the purpose of this, it's whatever your preference is. I'm going to recommend that you work with Western because it's going to show you the surface level, whereas sidereal is going to show you more of like the inner layers. So if you're ready to do that inner layer work, then go ahead by all means. I also do apologize if you hear background noise during this session today because there is some construction happening and my microphone has not been working the last few times I've tried to use it. So I'm just playing it safe using the regular audio. With all of those housekeeping things being said, like I said, I want you to go ahead and have your birth chart ready. What we're going to be looking at today specifically is, we're not going to do a super in-depth anything, but it's going to be purposeful for the transits that we're experiencing right now. And so because we are somatic, sensational feeling beings, we are impacted by the stars, obviously impacted by the soma that is around us. And so we can become aware of what's going on around us. It can help to illuminate some of the things that are going on within us as well. It may help you feel a little less crazy. It may help you ground into who you're desiring to be, who you're desiring to become. But what we're going to be doing today is mostly looking at where your Saturn placement is. And I'm going to go into this a little bit, but I just want you to get familiar with your chart, have that there, have that ready or handy to look at, or maybe you just know off the top of your head. But I want you to look at specifically what sign your Saturn placement is in, and then also in what house. So inside of the membership, there's like, you can deep dive into what the different houses mean. You can deep dive into what the different signs mean, how they're impacted and ruled in the birth chart as like an introductory thing. And eventually we're going to have an astrologer come in to the space and give us like a proper masterclass. But until then, we have the foundational aspects inside the portal for you to explore with. But for the purpose of this, you are just going to need your chart where you can see where your houses or what signs are in what houses. Okay. Oh, it is officially 2:00 on October the 22nd. So let's just take a few moments here to breathe, allow ourselves to fully enter into the space. Come with your water, with your journal, with your body, your presence. You don't need anything except for you right now. And just take a big inhale, holding it at the top for 2 seconds, and then exhale audibly, letting yourself sink deeper into where you're sitting, where you're laying, where you're listening, where you're receiving this. I'm going to do one more breath like that. Hold for 2 seconds at the top and audibly exhale. You can let your shoulders flop. Then we're going to do one more breath where we're going to inhale twice. So you're going to inhale, don't inhale all the way, and you're going to inhale again, and then you're going to audibly exhale. And welcome. That last breath is like a breath that I like to keep in my toolbox because what it does is it automatically regulates your nervous system and switches you from it makes you go from fight or flight to relaxed. Okay. I was gonna butcher the states of the nervous system right there. I think it switches you from sympathetic to parasympathetic, I believe. All right, so now that we have entered this room, now that we've entered this space, I'd love for you to just take a moment and bring something to the altar, put something on your actual altar or the metaphorical altar that is this space. So maybe it's a crystal, maybe it's an intention, maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's something that you have been working through and you just want to presence it and bring it to the space, bring it to the room right now. I want to invite you to do that. Maybe you write it down on your piece of paper in your journal, or you just have a reminder of it in your mind. Mm. And just breathing into that intention or whatever is coming up for you and allowing that to be here with us in the room right now. So as you know, every month we come together to do a somatic call. And today I was talking with my partner and we were talking about, he brought something up to me and I didn't want to hear it. And I found myself making excuses for myself. And he illuminated something for me that was really, really powerful. And so I wanted to share it with you on this call today, and it's going to be part of our somatic practice. So I'm going to give you a little bit more context. We were talking about how sometimes the way that you present yourself isn't always cohesive. So sometimes you show up in certain areas where you feel more comfortable with so much energy. And then in other areas, you may not show up with that same energy. And the question is why? And also, where's this incongruence coming from? Energetically, like, where is this incongruence coming from? And in what ways can you support yourself in your authentic expression? basically he asked me why I was showing up in one way over text, but in a different way when we were talking on the phone. And immediately I just wanted to be like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like, you're so wrong. But immediately also I knew he was right. I was like, oh, I definitely do that. And I feel like I have done that for forever. But in this moment, I was like, I just wanted to immediately make excuses for my behavior. And I noticed that this was a pattern that I was doing in my business as well. Like, and it was something that I really struggled with at the beginning of my business too. This idea of like, okay, I am not getting the result that I want. And I'm frustrated that I'm not getting the result that I want. But instead of me owning the fact that I want that result and facing the discomfort that comes with not having that result, I'm making excuses for myself as to why I don't have that result yet. And it's pushing it out further into the future. It's pushing it out. It's pushing it away from me. And I noticed that when he confronted me with this, I was like immediately like ready to make an excuse. Like, oh, well, this is happening. Oh, well, this is happening. Oh, well, I was around this person. Oh, this is da 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 da. And literally I couldn't. He like wouldn't let me, but he's a great person. Anyway, he wouldn't let me. He was like, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. If I'm saying that I really want something, if I'm saying that I really love something, if I'm saying that this is mine, if I'm saying that that is who I am, that is who I am at the chorus, like at the most innermost layers and levels of my being, if I'm saying that's who I am, then why am I not getting that result? Then why am I showing up incongruently? Then why am I allowing the excuse to coexist with me? Why am I letting the excuse stop me from being who I say I am? And this put a really big mirror in my face because I was like, whoa, I've been doing this with my mom, like not necessarily just my mom, but like my family and my outer circumstances and my outer relationships. My mom is like my closest relationship, so that's why I say her. But I've been doing this with my external environment, these external factors, giving all of my power to them. Saying, oh, it's not happening because I'm in the wrong environment. Oh, it's not happening because this person is interfering. Oh, it's not. I'm giving my power away by entertaining the excuse. And this brought to light this thought or this belief that was like really ingrained in my head, which was I cannot be successful if people around me don't want me to be successful. I cannot be successful if the people around me don't want that same level of success. And this is such a double-edged sword because your environment really does play a role in your ability to show up for yourself. But also, if you let your environment be the determining factor, you will never get anywhere. You have to be the determining factor. And in that moment, when I was confronted with this, I realized that I was using my family, my environment, my mom as an excuse as to why I couldn't do something because it's actually that I don't really want that thing. I'm comfortable where I am. The excuses allow you to stay the same. The excuses allow everything to remain as it is. It justifies your current present moment experience. It solidifies it. When you throw the excuses out the door, when you say they're not responsible for my wealth, they're not responsible for my success, then you have to take accountability. You have to take responsibility for what you are not doing, for what you are not receiving, for the opportunities that you do or do not have. And that can be really hard. Especially if you're in a position where you're like, oh, my environment's so out to get me, like all of this stuff. It makes it's like an even denser weight to carry with you. And a lot of the time, the only reason we make these excuses is because we don't want things to change and because we're actually clinging to something in our current reality the way it is. And when I had this conversation, it made me realize, oh, I'm clinging to my relationship that I used to have with my mother that made me feel like I was superior to her. I'm clinging to a power dynamic that I am saying that I don't want, but that I also really don't know how to live without. I'm using my mom or my external circumstances as an excuse in order to keep them in my life. Because I know that if I don't use it as an excuse, it will fall away. It will cease to even exist because that's how much I've evolved out of those relationships, out of those dynamics. But my ego is like, no, please come back. Please come back. And so it's grasping, it's reaching for all of these excuses to solidify this reality that I say that I don't want, but that I'm actually so focused on because I keep making excuses why I can't have this reality over here. And so I'm justifying this reality, gripping to it, grasping to it, instead of stepping outside of the excuses and allowing myself to actually see the truth, to actually see through the illusion of not having any control. And so the reason that I shared this here with you today is because when I had that realization of like, oh, I'm literally using this as an excuse because I want to keep it in my life, I realized, okay, I don't have to use it as an excuse. I can use it as a reason. I can use it as a why. So you go from making excuses justifying this reality that you don't want over here to justifying this reality over here, using the same energy, shifting it for reasons that support this reality, for whys of why this reality already exists and gets to come into fruition. So the work that we're doing today is beautiful, first of all, because we're having a lot of transits in the stars right now. And one of the big transits that we're experiencing is Saturn moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. Sorry, my cat's like doing something over there. I'm like looking at her. We're moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. Saturn is moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. And this transit happens like once every 20 years or so. So I don't even think that's right. I think it's longer than that. But Saturn will sit in Aquarius for the next 20 years or so. So the shifts that we're having right now are a lot to do with this Piscean energy of like illusions and the realm of the deep unknown. But also Pisces are very volatile. So they're all over the place. So there's so much energy right now, and it's like all of these illusions, and it's like all of this, but that's how illusions stay in place. Like we were just talking, the excuses solidify the story that you don't want. Illusions are solidified by so many moving pieces, making it look like it's real. That's literally the world that we live in. It's an illusion. And nothing is actually moving, it's vibrating. Nothing is actually touching, even though we feel the illusion of trust or of touch. Sorry. So we're unveiling this illusion, right? And Saturn is also coming out of retrograde. This is the transit that happens longer. Saturn is coming out of retrograde in a few weeks. And so when any planet comes out of a retrograde, it's like a slowing down of that energy. So all of this energy has been illuminated. Pisces is like bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it up. It's all in the air. Aquarius has it all in the air, right? And so now it's our job as Saturn is leaving this retrograde to anchor it in so that we can then begin to see these results long term. Saturn is all about the long term. It's about doing the hard work now so you can reap the benefits later. So this is a really powerful time to reflect on what you're still avoiding or making excuses around, and why those specific excuses. Like, what are those excuses solidifying for you? Are they solidifying that you're a victim? Are they solidifying the fact that you have no control? Are they solidifying the fact that everything is your responsibility? Are they solidifying the fact that you are the martyr? Like, what story do these excuses actually solidify? And what do you want to solidify in your world? And how can you switch from making excuses to working with reason? This is the development of Piscean energy. This is like how you evolve Piscean energy. And so I also want you to look at where Pisces is in your chart, because you're going to be experiencing a lot of expansion in these areas. So for example, in my chart, I have Pisces in the 4th house in Jupiter. 4th house is all about like relationships, especially familial relationships. So there's been a lot of illumination there for me. And for a long time, I was using my family as an excuse. And this morning, I realized I get to use it as a reason. Not something to pull me down, but something to lift me up and help me grow. And this will be shown, this transformation, this internal alchemy will be shown in the spring when we begin to reap the seeds that we have sown. So that was a lot of talking. I haven't been talking on these calls. We've just been going into the somatic practice, but I wanted to set that stage so that we understand the propensity of this work, like the basis of it, like how important it actually really is to be doing this specifically at this time, but always, because Saturn is a very powerful character, okay? And when we work with our Saturn placements and Piscean energy, we can actually allow ourselves to create karma in a way that really serves the involvement of our soul rather than through fear and destruction and all of those kinds of things. Oh my God, I don't know what's going on over there. But anyway, so for the rest of this call, we're gonna do a little bit of a somatic practice. And you might want to journal with this. You might not. You might want it to be like a totally internal experience. Regardless, doesn't matter. Whatever feels the best for you. And you can also come back and do this practice whenever you're feeling it, with this video or just like the general guidelines of this practice. So we're going to go into the body. I want to invite you to take a drink of water. I'm going to do that. And then also just soften your pelvis. So what that looks like is just like let it sink, let your tailbone kind of like sink in and under. And just soften your pelvis and focus your energy on your sacral chakra, which is like right below the navel of your belly button. We're just going to start by breathing here. In and out at a pace that feels comfortable for you. Noticing the rise and fall of your diaphragm. Noticing how deep your breaths are. Does it feel like the air is penetrating your body? Every cell of your body, or just the surface layer? What happens when on that inhale, we attempt to go a little bit deeper? And what happens on that exhale if we allow ourselves to push out a little bit further? What does it feel like to create more space for ourselves? What does it feel like when we feel supported? Maybe you want to move into a position where you're feeling more supported, like your back being held up by the wall. Maybe you want to lay down. Just continuing to deepen with your breath, sinking deeper and deeper into your physical body. Noticing the sensations. Maybe feel some bubbles in your tummy. Maybe some tightness in your chest or your shoulders. Maybe there's some tension in your neck. Maybe you feel tingles as you breathe in. Maybe you're feeling your mind expand as you allow the breath of life to infiltrate you deeper. Continuing to breathe in and out, this time adding an audible exhale. Letting that weight be dissolved through the breath. Imagining as it exits your mouth, it's alchemized by the world around you, the same way trees take CO2 and make oxygen. Your energy that is released is taken and added to the collective consciousness that unites the highest good of all. Where can you relax more? Where can you invite your presence in more? Bringing your energy to the top of your head, allowing a white light to permeate from the crown to the back of your eyes, to your pineal gland, moving down the brainstem, out to the ears, through the trachea, and down through your spinal column, all the way to your tailbone. Coming in like a wishbone and going back out so that the light can permeate each of your legs and your feet. Imagining that any energy that no longer serves the support of your highest self slowly falls like silt to the bottom of a river, where it is kept and adds vital nutrients to the ecosystem. And now we're going to take a moment to go into the heart. There may be a specific area of the heart where you feel called to work with. There are the upper heart. This is your higher self's heart. And the lower heart, which is your human heart. And the areas all in between. Just taking a moment to notice, to take a little bit of inventory to what's going on in this space. Our excuses usually reside in the heart as a result of guilt or grief. And without labeling or introducing any words whatsoever, I want you to just feel what you feel is on your heart. Begin to think about what your biggest obstacle feels like right now. And maybe it feels like another person. Maybe it feels like your circumstances. Maybe it feels like your environment. That's okay. Recognize that. And once you have your biggest obstacle on your heart, I want you to take it out as if you're holding it in your hand and look at it. This is your biggest obstacle. I want you to list, as you're looking at your biggest obstacle, all the reasons why you can't. I don't have the money. I don't feel like it. I'm not inspired. I'm not strong enough. I don't have the energy. I'm not competent enough. I'm not an expert enough. I don't know enough. I don't have any experience here. I feel powerless. Just note all of those, we'll call them reasons, why you feel like you can't. Maybe you want to write them down. That's up to you. If you do write them down, I do recommend burning this list at a later point in time. Now, as you sit here with your biggest obstacle right in front of you, so close, you can almost feel it. Maybe your palms get a little sweaty. Maybe your heart starts beating fast. And this obstacle, it fits in the palm of your hand. And all the reasons why you can't, they only exist because you believe in them, because you validate them, because you choose to align with that story that says that you can't. And so the thoughts come flooding in. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not smart enough. What happens when you close your hand on that so massive obstacle? Where does it go? It completely dissolves. Because once you close the book to that story ceases to exist. And guess what? You can open that book again. You can rewrite its contents because it's your book. It's your story. And you can see that obstacle. And instead of making reasons why you can't, you can look at it and say, I understand that I may feel like I'm not smart enough, but I will learn everything I need to know along the way. I have no experience here, which makes it that much more of a breeding ground for my success. My environment, although it does impact me, is not the determining factor for my results. I am. My willingness to receive is my ability to perceive. Will I allow myself to receive it in my mind first? Will I allow myself to close the storybook that tells me that I can't have it and open the book that tells me that this is my fucking fairy tale? Now, before we actually move on to the fairy tale story, let's take a moment here to recognize what you actually get when you use your I can't statements as an excuse. So when I tell myself I'm not worthy enough, what I'm getting out of that is the validation that I am a victim and that I have no control. What I'm getting out of that is permission to stay the same. What I'm getting out of that is permission to rest. Interesting. So when I make the excuse that I'm not worthy, what I'm really asking for is rest. It's time to rest. It's time to relax and not make not doing anything mean anything about me. What I'm asking for is permission, for freedom, for acceptance. And so what once was an excuse, I am unworthy, becomes a reason. And the reason is that I deserve to rest. I deserve to be paid to exist. I deserve to exist and be provided for. I deserve to be unconditionally provided for. And when you can make those reasons, when you can turn the excuse from I can't to I can, and make the excuse a reason, that's how you form a new belief in the body using your logical mind. And this unifies you on a mind, body, soul level. This brings your soul with you as you do the internal development. So you're not just doing personal development for the sake of personal development. No, you're doing it because it fulfills your soul. Because it is your birthright to live out your soul's truest desires in this experience. But in order to get there, you got to stop making excuses for your soul's truest desires. And you got to actually recognize what your soul's truest desires are. And that's often hidden in the excuses that you're making about the things that you really want. So, what are you getting out of your excuses? This may be helpful to write them down and go by one, or maybe you can just like think out loud, brainstorm with yourself, depends on how you like to do things. But I want you to begin to recognize the areas of your life where you're making excuses for the things that you really fucking want. Where you're saying, oh, it's just not time yet. Oh, it's just da 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 da. Oh, it's just this. Oh, it's just that. It's just this. Okay, it's always going to be just that then. There's always going to be an excuse until you make them reasons. And the thing about reasons is they just stack up and they just pile up the same way excuses do, except the it's like you're in the same vehicle, but you're going to different places. Okay, your GPSs are routed to different places because of the way that you're using the vehicle. So instead of using the excuse as something to pull you down and pull you back or keep you safe, like a blanket, like a straitjacket, you're using the excuse. Really, what you're doing is you're getting to the root of the excuse and using that as a reason for why you can and will see success, whatever that looks like for you. And in order to see through the excuses, you must recognize what illusions you're still currently feeding. So maybe that looks like you're feeding the victim. Maybe that looks like you're feeding the powerless child. And it doesn't mean that those archetypes or experiences aren't real. It's just about what you're willing to feed, what you're willing to create in your reality. When you care about yourself so fucking much, you are not going to listen to the excuses. You're going to say, and even if you do for a little bit of time, like I was doing, you feel so bad in your body. Like it feels bad to listen to the excuses because you know that they're just excuses. And you know on some level that they're just there to keep you safe. And in order to actually grow, you have to let go of the safety net. That doesn't mean you won't feel safe. It just means that you have to let go of your current web like a spider. It's like a spider building a new web. It's like if a spider stayed at a web that they knew was going to be in a hurricane, like they preyed on their own downfall. But if that spider knew that that hurricane was coming and it went and it built another web and it used that to support itself using the same materials. You see what I'm saying here? You see what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down, okay? If you want to get clear on what illusions you're still feeding in your life, you can look at where Pisces is in your birth chart. So what house and in what sign. So for me, like I was saying, I have it in Jupiter in the 4th house. So that has a lot to do with family. So a lot of the illusions that I was feeding into were stories about my family, about why I couldn't do things, about yeah, just like a lot of things about family and familial relationships and like the structure of family and things like that. And that coupled with the Saturn transits that are happening right now is we're reflecting a lot on the way that we have enabled and allowed these family dynamics and family systems to influence our expansion, to influence our karma. And it's our decision, it's our opportunity to sit here and decide through reason that we deserve differently, that we actually get to have differently. Because once you get to the root and you find the root of that excuse and you transmute it into a reason of your why, what happens then is your body begins to build the belief. Because what a why is it's something that allows you to have faith. It's something that allows you to that gives you a spark of energy that fuels you, gives you reason, gives you drive. And it shows up for you when you don't feel like showing up. And that's what helps you to build the belief not only in yourself, but in a higher power and in success in whatever endeavor you're attempting or whatever realm you want to find success in. Family, business, relationships, any of it. But in order to build those beliefs, you have to get to the root of why your belief system or your thoughts or your excuses are the way that they are right now. What does that serve? What illusion does that feed? And is that an illusion that you actually want to play into? Or is that something that the world created that you're no longer in resonance with? It's time to make decisions. You're the decision maker. You're the money maker. You're the person who makes all the decisions. You're the person who makes all the money. In order to make all the money, you got to make all the decisions. In order to make decisions that are responsible, you have to know what your true values are. You have to know what you truly feel. And in order to know what you truly feel, you have to know why you're making the excuses that you're making. So, as we're coming out of this Saturn retrograde in a few weeks, things are going to seem like they're slowing down. This is a really, really powerful time to reflect on what you're still avoiding or what you're still making excuses around and why those excuses, so that you can set a strong foundation for the next 20 years until 2044, which is the period that Saturn will be in Aquarius for. And if you can do this, if you can clear the air, so to speak, and let go of those excuses that don't really serve or support you intentionally let go of those, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of really, really, really good karma. Because Saturn is the planet of karma. And a lot of people are like, karma is bad, but it's just energy. So what are you putting out? What excuses are you making? And also know that in those excuses, you're making a decision and you're solidifying a story. So, what story do you actually want to solidify? And how can you start making excuses, being a little delulu, in the energy of the direction that you want to go? So, let me give you a very strong example so that you can understand. say my excuses. I can't do it because I don't have any energy. That one came up a lot for me. I don't have the energy for it. 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 Let me just get in there real quick. I don't have the energy for it. First of all, I already know that I'm making this excuse because I'm giving my energy to things that I don't actually have the energy for. And so then for the things that I really do want to do, I'm making that excuse because the energy is imbalanced and I need to set that boundary. Okay. Self-awareness. We love her. If you want to be able to do stuff like this, join the membership because I teach you how to do all the things inside there and you get a deep dive inside my brain and it's great. It's great. It's really great. And then I show you how to do it in your own way though. Um so the excuse that I don't have the energy for it solidifies the story that I'm weak. And there's so many different variations of that story, but at the basis of it, it's that I am weak, that I'm powerless. And you know what? As soon as I bring that, that could be an excuse. I'm weak, I'm powerless. But in my mind's already on the realm of like, okay, we're making that a reason. So immediately in my mind, I'm like, oh, but that's exactly why. That's exactly why. I don't have the energy for this. And yet I'm still doing it. That's exactly why I'm going to be successful. I don't feel like it. What I actually don't feel like doing is selling my soul. And so that's a reason. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like selling myself. Okay, so I don't have to. My business doesn't have to be like that. But you see how when you recognize the excuse, you can get to the feelings underneath it and then you use your logic. I'm not in your brain. I cannot do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. You use your logic to understand what's actually going on in your body somatically. So you're feeling this heavy feeling of like, I just don't have the energy. Okay, what happens when I just don't have the energy? When I just don't make myself have to have the energy, I just don't have it. It's just not there. I'm good. Okay, that can be a reason why I need to work for myself. Like, you can make anything a reason. You can make anything an excuse. What are you choosing to do? What story are you choosing to solidify? I'm powerless. That can be an excuse or it can be a reason. I'm powerless. When it's an excuse, it feeds the story of me being weak. When it's a reason, it feeds the story of me being provided for unconditionally by the universe. I'm powerless. I have no say in this situation. It's up to God, it's up to the stars. I fully surrender. And there's a balance between that, right? Too. Like there's times for certain things and whatnot. Like sometimes it is about taking charge and sometimes it is about surrendering. But you can see how these different ways of perceiving the same energy can shift the trajectory of literally your whole fucking life. When you decide to stop making excuses and you start making reason and using reason, to move your emotions in ways that are favorable for you, you are going to change the fucking world. And I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to fucking see it, okay? This is all I have for our call today. I love you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to like ask them on here or in the group. And I will talk to you soon. Let's close out with this song because we opened with it. And let's close out with it. It's amazing.
Softly to give them it's my life. Come a little. I don't need your permission. Flying solo on a mission. It's my getting my way on my own. I only have to know I've got the world in the palm of my hand. I've got no master plan. But I know I've got the world in the palm of my hand. But I know that's I understand. But I know I've got the world in the palm of my hand.